is the Home Guard Initiative? The Home Guard Initiative is an attempt to introduce citizen safety structures and an active, empowered citizen mindset into South African society. We strive to bring together all citizen safety organizations into an understanding that allows for efficient communication, dissemination of training materials, and a united, methodical response in times of emergency. We are a non-racial initiative who seek to foster greater peace and security across all communities in South Africa. What we protect. HGI is a defensive initiative. We seek only to protect and defend the lives, freedoms, and property of South African citizens. As such, we adhere to the belief in the right to and duty for a citizen to bear arms and to be well trained in their use in order to defend life and community. In the previous video, I mentioned how various politicians have called for a revival of citizen safety structures like the Commandos or Home Guard. This was mainly to illustrate that the political climate is not as hostile to this idea as it once was. It is not a call for any political party to implement yet another state agency that further centralizes state power and disempowers the citizen. Rather, it was a call to action for citizens to take responsibility for their own security and protecting their way of life. I do not seek to undermine or interfere with existing community safety organizations. The quickest way to destroy initiatives like this is to introduce petty politics and power plays. Moreover, most of these organizations are far more efficient than anything I could put together. How then do existing organizations fit into the Home Guard Initiative? The Home Guard Initiative is not an organization, it is an idea. It is an attempt to bring together security-minded citizens under an umbrella, where they can cooperate or operate independently towards the common goal of protecting life, property, and liberty. As such, to refer back to the old commando system, the Town Home Guard, or Town Commando, is a battalion-strength concept. A battalion is made up of many subunits, companies, platoons, sections, and cells. And just as each platoon in a battalion can be tasked with different jobs, and each section in each platoon can be tasked with acting independently, so too would the subunits of a town commando be responsible for running their daily affairs. So an AfriForum Community Watch would continue doing what it does, as would a farm guard, as would local security companies, as would community policing forums. These are all platoons, in size, in shape, in function. The platoons operate independently to cover the most ground. However, these platoons should at least be aware of each other, and one member should be able to communicate with other platoons, with other citizen safety units. Should a large-scale emergency then break out, the various platoons would come together under one banner, that of the Town Home Guard, or the Town Commando. This Town Home Guard would then form the nucleus for the thousands of volunteers who would likely come forth to defend their neighborhoods in a time of crisis. These fresh volunteers would not be members of any existing citizen safety structure, and do not want to have to decide whether they want to belong to this group or to that group, which may not represent their beliefs or identity. They want to protect themselves and their loved ones, so they join the Home Guard directly. They are likely to leave as soon as the emergency is over, as nighttime patrolling is not for everyone. This then brings us to the next point, the difference between long-term volunteers and short-term volunteers. The Home Guard Initiative is open to both short-term volunteers who take up the defense of their communities in a crisis, but then return to their daily lives when the crisis is over, and long-term volunteers who belong to a citizen safety structure and regularly patrol and secure their areas at all times throughout every year. In a time of crisis, these long-term volunteers should not isolate themselves and do their own thing. Instead, they should form the leadership element of the Town Commando. Each long-term volunteer should be put in charge of 10 short-term volunteers, who will benefit from his or her experience and contacts. Personal ambitions and politics should be put aside, and each unit of 11 should seek only to keep their community safe. This would extend to members of security companies who would use short-term volunteers to reinforce them in their duties. Perhaps the most important aspect of this proposal is that community volunteers need some discipline and organization in order to prevent them descending into vigilantism and mob violence. One of the primary reasons for starting the Home Guard initiative is to avoid a repeat of the so-called Phoenix Massacre that happened during the July 2021 Zuma riots. The Urban Peacekeeper. Home Guard Urban Peacekeepers is the term used to describe short and long-term community volunteers who come together to protect their town in a time of crisis. The three core functions of urban peacekeepers. 1. Keeping the peace. Like UN peacekeepers, these volunteers should dedicate themselves first and foremost to keeping the peace. Keeping the peace can be facilitated by electing peace mediators who will seek to actively prevent conflict between various communities or sectors of society. All peacekeepers should seek to reduce violence, strengthen security, and promote stability. 2. Protection of life and property. Should a crisis become serious, or if peace mediators are unable to prevent conflict, then all urban peacekeepers will be called upon to protect the lives, freedom, and property of the citizens in their town. This will include rear area defense, the protection of vital infrastructure, government or otherwise, securing supply points and supply lines, protecting life, property, and a civilized way of being in one's area, guarding vulnerable points and people from any and all threats, anti-crime measures. 3. Disaster response. This will include emergency first aid, as well as evacuation procedures, protection of first responders, firefighting, and civil defense, as well as assisting the state in times of emergency. All of these will be core functions of urban peacekeepers. In order to fulfill these functions, the urban peacekeeper may play some of the following roles among others not on the list. Conducting anti-crime patrols, guarding critical infrastructure, defense of home areas, neighborhoods, and towns, curbing of unrest, manning of roadblocks and conducting cordon and search operations, disaster assistance and emergency first response, firefighting and civil defense. In all this, the peacekeeper must remember his primary role of keeping the peace and reducing the levels of violence and anxiety in a time of crisis. The urban peacekeeper will train for his or her role either by watching Home Guard Training Initiative videos, to be provided soon, or by training on their own. Above all else, they should seek to portray a professional image and not allow emotions to stop them from their primary goal of protecting life. The second type of unit is a Home Guard first responder. A first responder is a person with specialized training who is among the first to arrive and provide assistance at the scene of an emergency or incident. We can consider this mobile defense. A Home Guard first responder is an active citizen who is comfortable providing assistance when needed and who is willing to travel beyond his neighborhood, farm, or zone of comfort to provide people with assistance in a time of emergency. First responders could specialize to respond to a certain type of incident, like a medical emergency, fire, or livestock theft. They will either provide direct medical or security assistance by helping wounded, setting up roadblocks or emergency control points, pursuing and apprehending suspects, following an attack or other crime, as well as coordinating their activities with any other citizen or state safety units. A Home Guard first responder is considered a highly mobile unit, and it is expected that a first responder will be willing to respond rapidly to an incident, whether a farm attack or a refinery explosion, with speed and determination to help out in any way they can. A Home Guard first responder is aware of the dangers first responders face and should be armed and trained to defend themselves and the people they are trying to help. The modern iteration of the Minutemen, the Home Guard first responder, is ready to set out at a minute's notice. As such, first responders will be amongst the most highly trained of our units, whether they specialize in a specific role or are general first responders. The Home Guardsman is the third type of unit. Closely resembling the former Commandos, the Home Guardsman is primarily a rural-based volunteer who does as his name suggests and guards his home. Living on a farm in an isolated area, this can be a full-time commitment in itself. Like the commandos of old, the home guardsman is in communication with his fellow neighbors on surrounding farms, his fellow home guardsmen. In addition to belonging to a communications network, the home guardsman has the following functions: rear area defense, static defense. This consists of guarding key points and vital infrastructure like silos and keeping lines of communication and food movement secure. Guarding vulnerable farmers and their families and staff, generally on one's own farm or home. 2. Responding to incidents in his area. This will involve assisting during farm attacks or rural violence, whether emergency assistance, setting up roadblocks, or searching for suspects. Forming search groups to look for missing people or animals. Assisting with the fighting of veld fires and other natural disasters. The third function is to protect the lives and property of one's neighbors and oneself. This consists of protecting farmers, their staff, and their property from farm attacks, as well as curbing or fighting off land invasions, land grabs, or other political attempts to deny a farmer his right to his land. This also involves protecting livestock and seeking to apprehend livestock thieves in one's respective area. Terminology and insignia. I have chosen the terms peacekeeper, first responder, and home guardsman because they are politically neutral and have more chance of being accepted in a political system that despises active citizens doing things for themselves. As such, peacekeepers should have armbands or t-shirts in a light blue color, like UN peacekeepers. First responders should have red and white armbands or t-shirts, since they often function as paramedics. And home guardsmen should wear brown or khaki to show that they are farmers connected to the land. Like all things in the Home Guard initiative, these are merely suggestions, and any member can wear what they want. However, if there was a degree of uniformity, it would help legitimize Home Guard units and aid in their discipline. Future plans. As I have stated many times, the Home Guard initiative is an idea, not an organization. As to the question where to from here, that is largely up to you, the viewer. I have always enjoyed and been impressed by the World War II era training films that covered everything from how to fly an aeroplane to how to clear a minefield or make your bed. As such, I will be making Home Guard training films that will be similar in format and tone. These will cover as many topics as possible, from how to patrol your farm to setting up and manning roadblocks in a legal and safe manner, to the curbing of civil unrest, fighting fires, or basic medical emergencies. It is up to you, the viewer, to take these things further and turn the idea of the Home Guard initiative into reality. No longer will we citizens live in fear of a collapsing or uncaring state. If the shit hits the fan, the idea is out there. We will organize. We will defend. We will be the Home Guard.